All right, so one of the things that I thought about in trying to tackle the Lord of the Rings of Power, is figuring out a way to get inside the material and take you along on this journey. And for me, the best way to do that is with themes. So I mapped out all the different characters that I thought might need a theme and all the different factions, and I'm shooting for like that sweet spot of maybe 4 or 5. And the list came back as 17. And I thought, that's just too many. But as I dug into the show, I realized we really needed 17 discrete pieces of music that would allow you to follow these different characters on their journey through Middle-earth. So how do you make that work? Well, you have an orchestra. You're going to hear an orchestra. You're going to hear soloists from around the world. You're going to hear choirs. But at the end of the day, it all started in my studio at the piano. A theme to be memorable really only needs to be something that you can play with one finger sitting at the piano. So I want to show you guys a little of my creative process as I started to score the Rings of Power. So let's say Nori's theme. That was the first one I wrote. I feel like she's a very pure character. She's very innocent. So I wanted to create something that felt the way that I felt when I thought about her and I thought about her Harfoot life. So, thank you. I feel like this tells us a lot about who Nori is. Almost on the other end of the spectrum, the second piece that I decided to write was for Khazad-dûm. And we've already seen some of the brilliant actors that bring to life this industrious people. They are motivated, and they're builders, and they're miners. So I wanted to create something that had this sense of constant motion, and I created just an incredibly simple little anthem. So, thank you. There's a lot of power and there's a lot of nobility, but hidden in there, there's also vulnerability. And what I loved about Owain and Peter in particular and their scenes together is that you understood the family dynamic there. So I didn't need to change the music. I didn't need to change the melody to capture some of that in their confrontational scenes. In one scene in the middle of the season, Owain, Prince Durin, goes to his father and asks for forgiveness. And you hear that same prideful theme in a different context. what I love about thematic writing, is that it can tell you about the characters and it can tell you about the place at the same time. Now, one of our characters has no place. Sauron is perhaps the most challenging character for me to wrap my head around as I started the season, because he's referenced obliquely for most of the episode. I wanted to create something that sounded immediately sinister and also evoked a geometry of a ring. It's just a little circle, going right back to where it started. You hear how the melody just twists around, and I gave him this little motor underneath that just propels everything. It's like a hornet's nest has been stirred up when you talk about him. And combined, they create this really interesting feeling. Fun stuff. All right, so I felt like that feels pretty good. I understand who Sauron is. But we also meet a character named Halbrand, who is revealed to be Sauron. And you see Halbrand, you get to know him, you feel like you understand his quest, you understand that he has a dark past, but you like him. Well, what am I going to do with this, you guys? So I needed to figure out a way to have a Halbrand theme that could connect to the Sauron theme. So I turned it around backwards. Instead of, let's go the other way. That feels too obvious. It would give it away. So I tweaked one note. Okay, getting somewhere. Just by changing the context now of that figure that feels very Sauron-esque, you suddenly feel that's a noble man from the Southlands is who's in front of you. So what I love about that technique, thank you, is it allows you to subconsciously digest that there's a similarity. I don't expect anyone in here understood that Sauron's theme was a backwards version of Halbrand's theme. In fact, I would argue I'm ruining the show for you if that's what you're thinking about. But it's there. The similarities is there. The similarities are there that every other character has these big, leaping, beautiful themes, and that Halbrand's is contained. It's smaller. Another character I struggled with initially was Elrond, because I wanted to create something very optimistic and diplomatic. We're meeting him at a youthful time in his life. But there's something going on with this guy. He's displaced from his family. He's an outcast. We've gone from the major to the minor, which is super weird. It's really weird to do that. But don't worry. And we realize there's warmth to him. So one of the things, thank you. I love playing with contextualizing very simple melodies. I think a simple melody is one that you remember. For example, Valinor. I wanted to create something that's very simple and childlike. There's almost nothing to it. But it's a very idyllic place. It's a beautiful place. But in the context of the Rings of Power, it's a place that's out of reach. So in writing the harmonies for this, I wanted to take us far away from our starting point. Now we're going to go on a little journey. Okay, get ready, you guys. These chords are so weird, and yet we come back home. There's something very beautiful and longing about that, even though it feels weird. It's just weird. I love it. Thank you. I think maybe, though, my favorite theme is the Galadriel theme. Galadriel, to me, was my entry point for this character. I've loved this character since I was a kid. She was my entry point for this show. And when I was getting started, I was trying to find a way in. Who is Galadriel? And then when I saw the shot of Morphith holding the helmets, she was holding a singular helmet, putting it on a pile of other helmets, I thought, well, here is tragedy and sorrow, strength, but also vulnerability and sadness. And I just started looking at that scene in particular over and over again and imagining a melody that could capture those feelings. Hey, Morphith.
Hi. I'm here now just as my true self, a massive fan of Bear McCreary. Thank you so much for writing that.
Oh, well, you're welcome, and thank you for inspiring it. It's funny because I feel like when I saw you in the chainmail and in the costumes and the VFX, everything in that opening kind of prologue, I thought, I feel like I understand who our Galadriel is, and I owe so much of it to your performance. I'm just curious, like so what everybody has to realize, we didn't all do this at the same time, right? So you were in costume and on set, and then I saw that footage, I guess like a year later, and wrote this music. I've always wanted to know, when you finally heard it, did it measure up? Is it what you wanted?
So wonderful. Like, I think I was talking to you guys earlier about how when I was on the horse, there's kind of like a timeless feeling that kind of people did this forever. And we also sang and felt stuff through music. So it made it all make sense. And it made me cry because there's such sadness to it and such kind of, don't know how you managed, but such a feeling of ancient sadness.
Thank you. The sadness was what I was trying to grasp onto. Because if she's just a hero, I felt like I was missing something really important if I just wrote sort of a hero theme. So I was really thinking about, having that sadness in there. But I also hope that, is it kind of cool, though, to have your own theme? Like,
oh, my God.
I mean,
yes.
I enjoyed your walkout. I mean, like, if I could just follow you and play your music. Come down to dinner, Morphith. I don't know. What do you think?
Do you know, my parents sometimes do that. when I'm late out of bed when I'm visiting home.